welcome to Business in Hawaii with Reg Baker. This is broadcasting live every Thursday at 2 o'clock here in the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu in the Think Tech Studios. We are available on the website. If you want to see our schedule, you can go to thinktech.com, thinktechhawaii.com. It's on the screen. And you can get our full schedule of all the shows during the week. This Business in Hawaii program is positive stories about business in Hawaii. We all know we have challenges, and there are a number of companies that have worked through that and are successful, and we hear their stories right here. I wanted to do a little bit of a shout out today. There is a person in San Francisco whose birthday is today, and I just wanted to say happy birthday to my son, Richard Baker. We miss you. All right, today we have a guest that is in the high-tech industry, Pacific Point company. We're going to be speaking with Dina Tearney, who's the president and CEO. And Dina, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Reg.
All right, now, you been in Hawaii for a while already, or how long you've been here?
I've moved to Hawaii in 2006 from Texas, and at the time I was a traveling consultant, and I was living like a gypsy. I was living out of, my project that I was on was in Boston in the Rhode Island, I was actually working in Rhode Island, but I'd fly into Boston.
Well, that would sure motivate you to go to Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. So my client was there, I was traveling there every week, and I was looking for an opportunity to not have to travel as much. I had my suitcase in the bell captain's closet, he'd roll it out, I rented out my house in Texas, and so I was truly a gypsy at that point. So we were looking for a place to be. Somebody told us about an opportunity here in Hawaii, and I thought, sure, why not? Try it out for a couple years, live in paradise, why not? So that's what brought me out here.
So you came out here about 10 years ago then?
It's been almost 10 years, unbelievable.
And what did you do in Texas? You were in Texas for a while? Is that your home state?
Yes, I'm from Texas originally. Okay. And I'd worked in industry. I'd worked, when I graduated from college, I was a software engineer.
And what college was that?
University of Texas in San Antonio,
okay.
Yep. And I lived in Dallas. So I lived in Dallas for about 7 years before moving here, and worked in industry as well as a consultant for Capgemini, Ernst & Young, as well as IBM Global Services before I moved here.
Young. I'm an alumni from Ernst & Young.
Right here.
Hey. All right.
Okay.
I actually worked in a Honolulu office, and I was in the financial services practice. So
Okay,
Bank of
awesome.
Hawaii was my big account.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
Had a lot of fun with them. As a matter of fact, I think they were called something else before. Ernst & Ernst, and then Ernst & Winnie, and then Ernst & Young, and
Yep.
they just can't lose that Ernst part.
Yeah, I guess not.
And so you came out, and you came out because there was a business opportunity for you to get into?
Well, so what happened was I actually took a job. So I was looking to not travel as much. I was, as I said, a traveling consultant, so every week I'd fly to client site and fly wherever at that time because I had rented out my home. And somebody told us about an opportunity in Japan, in Hawaii, I don't know why I was thinking about Japan just now, in Hawaii to be a program manager for the state of Hawaii. And so I worked as doing some government work, really is a big change or a big shock, I guess, because I'd worked for all private sector companies, even as a consultant in industry, and then my first time in Hawaii and working for public sector. So it was a big change.
Cultural change, wasn't it? And in a sense of a corporate culture, I mean, things tend to move differently in the corporate world.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hawaii is different in terms of corporate culture and the way that they operate as well. So it was a lot of differences that I was
And how long did you do that?
I did that for 3 years. Came into a situation managing a large program for them to move off of a bunch of old legacy systems onto a more consolidated system that would bring more transparency, help them manage their business or their operations better. And then I moved over to Hawaiian Airlines. I was an IT director over there.
Wow.
So I did that for a couple years before starting the company.
Well, that's a pretty successful company, though.
Yeah, Hawaiian was fun. Yeah, Hawaiian was fun.
And all the travel benefits.
Yeah, it was fun. Had a lot of neighbor island trips, so it was good.
And you were there for a while?
I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But all this time you were thinking about having your own business, or how did that come about?
Definitely. The idea really birthed at the first job that I had here when I worked at the state, because They were in the process of implementing this application to better manage court cases. And I was looking for vendors to help us. I was looking for not just vendors, but I was looking for resources in general to come and help us implement this software. And it's not just implementing software, it's really implementing a business change. And it's a business transformation. It's a paradigm shift in the way that people thought about the court record. So it was a big change. And as I started interviewing people, as I looked at what was available in our market, I started to think like, gosh, there's just not a lot of, availability of the kinds of resources that we needed for a project of this size. So that's when I thought, maybe someday I might think about that, or I wish somebody would do this. So that was probably how it started.
It's very astute, because I think that's one of the reasons why the state and the city and county ends up going offshore, if you will,
Yep.
back to the mainland to
Yep.
bring in that talent to have it be done
Yep.
here, because there just isn't that pool of people to tap into to have it done here
Right.
locally.
Right, exactly. And I actually was pushing my vendors to say, is there a way we can come up with something creative to offset that the travel costs or any other things, like who needs to be here versus who doesn't have to be here? And so I found myself really helping them come up with ideas and solutions to help us, be able to meet our objectives without sacrificing quality, but not going crazy on cost once you factor in travel. I mean, travel destination, hotels are high,
Oh, yeah.
airlines high.
Yeah. Well, and
It's an expensive
everything
place.
is high, the
Yeah.
cost, the cost of living and rental cars and et
Yep.
cetera, et cetera. Oh, we need you over on the rail, and the connector's gone, but we need you to try to control some of these costs.
Would love to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we might have to send that word out and let everybody know you're available.
Absolutely.
Super. And so you were at Hawaiian Airlines for a while, and
Yep.
then how did you get into, what was the transition that you went through?
Well, to start the company, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to get back into private sector, so I wanted to get back, and there's a lot of other reasons. I mean, it was just time for me in my career. I felt like I had gotten, what I needed to get done accomplished, and there were a number of reasons why I left and went to Hawaiian. And so I went there, and it was good because it was another learning opportunity for me to understand more about Hawaii's business culture and things of that nature. And I think I wasn't as involved in enterprise software implementations while I was there. I was sort of in a different capacity. I was more of a vendor manager. And so, but I still
When you
would.
say vendor manager, meaning that you would engage the other vendors and they'd come in and provide a service and you'd
Right.
manage that
Yeah,
process.
so they had, large companies hire big companies to implement software for them. They buy the software. And so one of the particular vendors really covered a lot of core business for Hawaiian, from flight operations to reservations to crew management to the network. I mean, it covers so many core aspects of their operation, but it was one vendor, and it was really about trying to figure out how to optimize the value that you got from that vendor, how you helped them better align to your objectives, because it covered so many areas, and honestly, a vendor of that size, you're dealing with different people, and so you really just need to kind of get it all organized. And so that was the role I had. But even in that role, I observed a lot of projects, and I think it was reaffirmed that there's an opportunity potentially for a company like Pacific Point to come in and help address some of the talent pool needs that they even had, to help them implement software solutions with a measure of success.
So I guess part of the process, once you decided to get into this business, of course, you've got your skill set that you're bringing to it, but where did you get the other skill set to start this business and get it going?
I just did it. I mean, it was just sheer will. I just kind of went in and said, I want to do this. I'm going to try it. So I left Hawaiian Airlines. I started the company from nothing. I had no or pending contracts, if you will. I started from the ground
Non-compete
zero.
or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Good.
So I started from the ground up, and it was, it's tough.
So it's
It's tough
pretty
to set up
much
a
a
business.
one-person operation for a while then?
In the very beginning, I mean, a lot of it is when you're starting a company, you need to set up operations, and in a company like ours, you have to sell. And so I was out trying to sell. I was selling.
So you had multiple hats.
And
Yeah.
I still do, which is fun.
Well, and I think for most small businesses, and I don't know where that line necessarily is drawn where you no longer are a small business, but most small businesses, the owner has to wear all those different hats.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and how long did it take for you to hire your first employee?
Probably about a year. We had, small things that came up, but when you think about starting a company, as much as you want to, hire all these fantastic people or even one person, the cash flow is what it is. You sort of have to figure out the right time and you have to get creative. And that's what any startup, they have to be super, super creative about how they handle resourcing. Whether it's people resources or any other resources for that matter. So it took us about a year before we brought on our first team member that was dedicated full time, dedicated to our work. We definitely had some contracts that came up periodically.
It's one of those chicken or the
Yeah.
egg. Do you bring in the talent and then try to find a business, or do you get the business first
Right.
and then try to find the talent?
Right.
And it's always a balancing act between the two.
Right, absolutely.
It's a tough decision sometimes.
Completely.
All right. So, and how many people do you have now?
So we have 7 based out of Hawaii, and I call that kind of our core team because everybody on our team is similar to me in that most all of us have Big 5 consulting in our background or some form thereof, large enterprise implementation experience. And that's the core team that I really want to have working directly with our clients here in Hawaii, bridging the gap to the technical delivery people who are actually doing coding or any perceived technical work. And then we have technical people that are on the mainland and also in the Philippines.
Very good.
But I kind of count my core team as 7. And I did bring on a UH student as an intern, so he doesn't have the experience, but he's a great person. So
Well, no, and
happy to have
that's
that.
great to hear because we need to groom, our
Absolutely.
talent here locally. And hopefully, if we continue to do this, and if enough of us do this, then we'll have a pool of talent here that can hopefully someday meet the needs.
Absolutely. That's definitely, on our website, we talk about our mission and certainly to elevate, what consulting services mean in Hawaii to our customers, but also to groom future IT leaders in Hawaii.
Right.
So I hope maybe address brain drain and some of these other things if we can continue to create great opportunities for people.
Absolutely, and that's part of the mission. I would like to think of our program here is
Yeah.
to promote those positive stories and
Totally.
continue to build that pool of resources and talent. Now you've been in business for a while now.
Yes, 4 years.
4 years, and and I hope you're not embarrassed by this, but you actually got an award from the PBN for being one of those 40 under 40, right?
I did. I think
Yeah.
my hashtag was, I'm glad that everyone knows my age. And then it was like, not really, so, because I do publish your age, which was fantastic. So yes, that was a big honor. And, I love the recognition. I appreciate it. I still feel like I have a long way to go to build what we want to build, but it was certainly rewarding to get that kind of recognition, to know like, okay, I looked over my shoulder and thought, okay, we're doing something real. We're doing something that's adding value to Hawaii, and that's what this was all about.
Very good. Well, let's hold that thought for now. We're going to go on a
Okay.
quick break, and maybe we can come back after the break, and you can talk a little bit more about this 40 under 40 and what all
Sure.
that's about. All right, super. This is Reg Baker, Business in Hawaii. We're talking with Dina from a company called Pacific Point, and we'll be right back after about 60 seconds. Aloha.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I host a show called The Economy and You. The show plays every Wednesday at noon, and on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space. And so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
Aloha, I'm Rachel Yergin with Aging with Grace. Please join us every Tuesday on thinktech.com.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on Think Tech Hawaii. I hope that you will tune in and watch the show. It is inspiring and uplifting and educational also. We talk with artists of all different ilk. We talk with them about what they do, how they do it, and most importantly, most dear to my heart, why they do it. And it never ceases to be fascinating when you get the answer to that question. I hope you'll join us on Center Stage, 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoons. Aloha.
Aloha, and welcome back to Business in Hawaii with Reg Baker. I'm here chatting with the CEO and owner of Pacific Point, Dina. We were just talking a little bit about the 40 under 40 that the PBN does every year, and you were one of the honorees last year.
Yeah, it was super nice. Don't know how I weaseled in there, but it was good. It was a really great honor, like I said before the break. It was super flattering.
And it's a pretty competitive process. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that get nominated
Yeah.
for that, and they go through a selection process and
Correct.
pick the best of the 40.
Yes,
So
that's right.
that's a great honor.
We did hear that this last year they did have the largest volume. I don't remember the number, but they did have a large volume, maybe their largest to date, of nominations that were submitted. So
Well, I'm hoping that
Happy.
someday they're going to have 80 under 80, so might qualify for that. So, but now your business, you've been in business about 4 years.
Yep.
And you're growing and you're expanding and you're moving forward. What can you just give us almost like a little case study of what it is that you do exactly?
Sure, yeah. So when we set out with the business, we really want, and I say we because it's me and other people who I said around me, my network, and said, is this something I could do? And yes, of course. But it was all about helping clients implement complex software implementations. But we knew our market was only as big as it is. And so we didn't want to necessarily say we only do government, we only do this industry or that industry or whatever, even though I may have a specific background in certain industries. So we decided to just say, this is what our discipline is. As the company's evolved, we have broken down our services into a few different areas. So the first is strategic consulting services. Strategic consulting is generally going into a customer, helping them look at existing technology, look at maybe their business objectives, evaluate their existing technology and let them know whether or not we think that, or how, I guess, they could improve, if they should replace what they have, if they should add something to what they have to just accomplish goals, set a roadmap, set a plan for them. So it's very strategic, looks at objectives, it looks at current infrastructure and from a software and business perspective, and then kind of makes recommendations.
Have you found that most companies have done something like that, or is this a pretty eye-opening experience for them?
I think the ones that I've worked with have not done it before. So I wouldn't think that it would be eye-opening for others, but it just so happens that the ones that we did it for hadn't had that kind of
Not done
service done
But
before.
it's a great way to uncover some opportunities.
Absolutely. And usually it's somebody calling and saying, something doesn't feel right, and saying, I'm using this thing, I've been using it for 5 years, something doesn't feel right, I don't feel like I'm getting what I should out of it. And it being, whatever software they're working with or a collection of software. And so that's when we kind of go in and do an assessment and we'll come out with our recommendations. I mean, there's kind of a whole bunch of stuff that happens in there, but the end is recommendations and a roadmap.
And I have found from the limited experience that I've been involved in some of this, is that the multiple systems can also be problematic at
Yeah.
times, because they don't always talk to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely needs to be thought through. And a lot of times it is upgrading or just better using what you already have, so there's data constraints. There's a lot of people run into data issues as well. So, just bad quality data, things of that nature. They're just not storing things that are useful for them to make the kind of decisions they were hoping the tool would help them do. So that's strategic consulting services. And there's other things that fall in there, like we help with vendor selections. We do, there's some other things that fall under strategy consulting. Then,
Do you vet the vendors too? I mean, can you
Correct.
actually get involved and look
Yep.
at their capabilities?
yeah,
and-
absolutely. So for our vendor selection services, we have a methodology that we approach. We help the client come up with a few vendors that they're looking at to either replace a system or start from scratch in a particular business area. We come up with evaluation criteria. We put weights and scores, and we do all that. We do a scoring process. We whittle it down. We shortlist. I mean, you go through a whole process of selecting the vendor, and then you kind of get down to negotiations, and things start getting real.
Oh, so you do help with the
Yeah.
negotiations too?
Yeah.
Wow, so that could be a big money saver.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely speak more from a software risk perspective or a technical risk perspective, contract risk perspective, just because we have that experience, working with other software vendors where we can, flag up certain considerations and things that should be thought of.
You've seen where things
Yeah.
can go wrong before, and so
Yep.
you can predict what needs to
Yep.
be addressed.
Yep,
Yeah, good,
exactly.
good, okay.
And then our core capability is the system implementation services. So usually they kind of feed the other, right? So after we help a client through recommendations and roadmap, and we help them pick the vendor solution, whatever they're going to do, or take what they have and upgrade that or whatever, then we move into actually implementing the software. And that service, I piece it into 3 different areas. It's project management, so managing the project. It's business analysis, figuring out business process requirements. And then the third is actually delivering the work from a technical perspective, doing coding. So we have some customers that'll come to us and say, Dina, we've got the technical people, we just need your help with project management. So we'll kind of get pulled into whichever area our customer needs. Or we have customers that'll just say, I don't have time, can you run it for me? And in which case we provide all 3 capabilities. So that's where we have the expertise. And the expertise really lies because it lies in our methodology. We have an approach for implementing large enterprise software solutions that we know works. What we've found from our own experiences works. So we leverage that. And we just had a great, a client, I just talked to them a couple weeks ago, and they said, the project we did for them just worked so well, and that they, having us just run it all made life a little bit easier for them rather than having kind of pieces of skill sets kind of patched together with them overseeing it.
Well,
So
and I guess that makes sense in some respects because they have their regular jobs that they have to be
Exactly.
doing, and this is kind of layered on top of that.
Yeah.
So it would tend to really jam things up if
Yeah.
they didn't have that extra set of hands there.
Yeah. So that's what we do. And then the third area is managed services. And so that's a customer who maybe already has a system that's live and just wants ongoing support. So they'll log tickets or cases with us and say, hey, I have this problem, or I'd like to enhance my system further. And then we just get those tickets in, we scope them out, and we manage those for them.
So that's kind of like an ongoing
Yeah.
maintenance part.
Yep.
Now, do you get into training very much?
We can help our customers with training. So we have it in we classify it under strategic consulting, but we have a change management and training area. So if customers are looking for someone to help them with training or change management, we definitely have that capability. I've found that a lot of people that we've talked to tend to not invest in that as much when it comes to their systems implementations. So we have it and we feel very strong about it. But I feel like a lot of customers feel like that's the thing that they can kind of do, or when you factor in all the costs, that's something they kind of carve off for themselves sometimes. So we definitely have the capability, but it's just from the clients we've spoken to, they tend to
Lower priority.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I think sometimes there's a good cause for it in some cases, and then I think when you're going through a big paradigm shift, a real change in the way that you see business as a result of this new technology, then you really should invest in change management.
I personally feel that sometimes the company and the employees get a little shortchanged if they don't invest in some of that training. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes the employees know what's working and what isn't working, and they know what information they need in order to get the job done. And the more they can learn about the new system and what the capabilities are, the more they can participate and help implement what really works for that company.
Yep.
And that's, I think, sometimes a decision that's a little short-sighted, when they don't make that investment.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is our methodology includes users in the requirements. So hopefully they end up, when we get to testing and things like that, they get to see the system. But then the training materials, it just kind of, we'll provide a little, but that's the one area where I would say sometimes customers kind of choose to take it themselves, do it themselves, in other words. But
Well, and, and these systems can be pretty expensive too. I mean, we're not talking about, a few $100s here.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
talking about maybe a few
Yeah.
$100,000,
Yeah.
or more.
Yep. Yeah.
And, and I've heard some of the horror stories from your past employer from the state that have tried to implement new software and could never quite get it to work, and they're still, after maybe a number of years, trying to figure it out.
Yep.
So have you reached out to them and offered your services?
Well, recently we have been talking more to the state. I would love to help them. I think that the challenges they face when I hear about them, because I'm not super close to them, I feel like most of the time it's not a technology issue. It's, as you pointed out, the end users, the people that are having to deal with this change. And the process. And so that's why I really feel like there's so much value in the methodology that we bring to a systems implementation, where our approach, just so we all can say it, is a process-driven approach to gathering requirements. So we actually map out people's process and we gather requirements based on that. And I think that's a critical way of defining what your technology is going to look like. When people just go through more of a traditional way of gathering requirements, what the solution ends up looking like doesn't match the way that people use and as you pointed out, the way that people actually function.
Right.
So we
This
take
could
that
actually, I'm sorry, but I was just thinking that could actually turn into like a procedures manual when you're done with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
something most companies don't have.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, our methodology is awesome because when you do it this way, everything sort of feeds into the next. So you have deliverables that just kind of feed into the next. So it's a nice approach. Maybe that's why our customers are like, okay, we can do that because they've got a nice little handy process maps. But yeah,
Very
it's good.
Well, it sounds very extensive. I mean, I guess a lot depends upon how large the enterprise or the program is that you're working with, but this is a process that could stretch out over a long time. I mean, the timeline on some of this could be 3 months, 6 months.
Oh, long, yeah, definitely long, depending on the scope of the project, absolutely.
Yeah, these are big jobs. Now, is most of your work on Oahu, or do you travel around neighbor islands?
Most of our work is here. We do have a client on where one of our consultants are flying to the Big Island, but most of the work is here.
Right, but if somebody, for example, from Kauai or Maui or the Big Island needed some help, I mean, would you be able to provide help out there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We've definitely spoken to some customers in Maui, or some prospects, I should say, and the neighbor islands. But we just invest, and I feel bad for the neighbor islands because I feel like I don't invest enough, but we invest more from a marketing perspective here. So there's more awareness here than there is probably there. But maybe I should spend more time thinking about that.
I would think that there would be less of a talent pool on some of the neighbor islands than there are in Hawaii.
Good point.
So there could be an interesting opportunity there. Matter of fact, maybe we should broadcast this show at one point out on Kauai and
There
invite
you
some people
go.
to come in and they can share some ideas. All right, very good. So when you decide to start hiring people, what are you looking for specifically?
Well, when we started, and we're still kind of early stage, right? I mean, we're 4 years old, but we're still pretty young, I would say. And I think that we've always to date hired from within my network. So I bring people that I know and trust, people that have this whatever skill set I'm looking for. And we had to do it that way when you start the company because we were advertising we had this skill set. So I had to bring that skill set to bear. Now, I pointed out we hired an intern, and so I'm looking for people that have, just the passion, have, good work ethic, certainly just care. I mean, honestly, it comes down to just caring about what you do, caring about your customer, because we care so much about their success and making sure that they're successful. So that, I think, is an attribute that we look for.
Very good. And I'm sure there are other attributes.
Yes.
And why don't we hold that thought?
Sure.
And when we come back from break, maybe we can talk a little bit more about
Sure.
that, and then maybe explore what the future looks like.
Okay, sounds
All right?
good.
This is Reg Baker, Business in Hawaii. We're going to be going on a short break. We'll see you in about 60 seconds.
Okay, I'm Jay Fidel. That's Ray Starling. We co-host a show called Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. It's really interesting. Ray has a way of unzipping these guys. He asks them these questions, and all this stuff tumbles out, and we find out stuff we would never know about without Ray's questions. Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome, Jay. I'm very pleased to be your Ed McMahon every Wednesday at 4 o'clock here on the internet. So you can join us and see what's happening in the energy world, and there is a lot going on. So join us every Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, come around, be energized, right here on Think Tech. Aloha.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on Think Tech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Aloha and welcome back. This is Business in Hawaii with Reg Baker. I'm here with the CEO and the president of Pacific Point, and we're talking about some fairly sophisticated and large enterprise projects that they help implement and get up and running inside some of the larger companies in town. And we were just talking about some of the attributes that she's looking for, that Dina is looking for, in some of the hires that she's brought on board. And so you've got this intern, you've been mentioning that attitude is a big component of what you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely caring, just having the passion for what you do, and caring about our customers, their success. An area that we are, I didn't mention this earlier, but our company, we are the exclusive partner for Salesforce.com as well as Sugar CRM and Tableau in the state of Hawaii. So skill sets in that area are nice. I mean, because that's an area we're developing and growing our business. So that's
now
another
Salesforce
thing.
I've heard about. Tell me, what is Tableau?
So Tableau is the leading BI business intelligence or analytics software in the market now. And it's fantastic because, there was sort of this big push for a lot of enterprises to implement these enterprise data warehouses where they would take all the, they've got data all over the place, bring it all together, and then start reporting off of it. So if you think about the time it takes to just do that, a long time. So enterprise data warehouse projects take sometimes years to implement fully. And so what I love about Tableau is it's a really great way to get up and running, discovering what your data is, and doing some, asking yourself basic questions and just going on the fly. You can connect natively to multiple data sources all at once, bring that data in and start looking, seeing what you have.
So this is, in layman terms, taking a big data type of environment and bringing it down into a smaller data that's a little bit more usable for the user, more meaningful.
Potentially. I think the big value is just in, there's a couple things. I think the fact that it can connect natively to all these different data sources so you can bring it in and start looking at it right away is a big win from a timing perspective, right? Because most of the time these enterprise things you got to wait forever for. Once you get it, you can create fantastic visualizations. The visualizations they have to do this data discovery, to do predictive analytics, to do those kinds of things, it's just amazing. It's a fantastic tool.
Almost play some what-if games?
Absolutely. You can definitely do a what-if analysis. And so I really like it. I think it's the leading BI solution for a reason. It's a great tool. And I just love that it's that quick and easy way to get in there, the visualizations being so awesome. It's a really powerful tool.
Right, and this is a program that you actually can market and implement, install, and get running inside companies.
Yeah, and Tableau's unique in the sense, like we've talked about how we help with large enterprise implementations and things like that as a company. That is a skill set that we have. I think Tableau's really great, is a great addition to our kind of tool set because you can also have customers that just get the desktop and they just start using it, and it doesn't require like this huge ramp up time. And even when you buy Salesforce, a lot of customers, smaller businesses, sometimes get a little disappointed. They're like, oh, I have to set these things up and it takes all this time. Tableau's not too much, it doesn't require as much. So it's a really nice way to get up and running and doing something. But yes, we can do more. Like if you want to do more, if you want help just with that, we definitely have the tool sets to help, the skills to help you get up and running on Tableau.
Now, Salesforce and I have some familiarity with it when it was first launched many years ago.
Yep.
And I have watched it over the years, and it's really evolved into something very powerful.
Absolutely.
And what size company do you think would be the smallest level that a Salesforce program could fit into?
Well, I mean, Salesforce can be with small, really small companies,
So
like
like a
a one-man
one-person
show.
operation,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And they came out, Salesforce came out with, I think they call it Salesforce IQ, which is where it's kind of a way scaled back version of the regular Salesforce that you probably saw. And it's more of a tool that can be where you're just kind of working in your email. And if you think of a small company that's just getting started, that's where all their contacts are. That's where all their activity is. And so Salesforce IQ kind of operates within that world.
Because I use Outlook,
Yeah.
and I use that as my CRM.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
And it's been pretty effective for
Yep.
me, but I know that there's better ways.
Absolutely.
And so does Salesforce kind of integrate with Outlook or lay over it, or?
You can do some Outlook integration with it, absolutely. So if you have emails that come in, or you can associate it with an opportunity or associate it with an account, there's definitely a
There's
plugin
ways
available for
to
that.
Massage that information as it
Absolutely.
flows through, very good.
Yeah.
But you could take Salesforce and install it and put it into a company and show them how to use it. That's part of what you do. I know you probably
Absolutely, yeah.
want to do that with a larger company, but,
Yeah.
because that could be a very powerful
Yeah.
tool.
It's been interesting. We've worked with some clients who have had Salesforce for a number of years, and they kind of tried to implement it on their own, and then they come knocking on our door saying, gosh, it's not working out right. So then we come in, we look at it, and then we help them kind of almost re-implement it or re-baseline where they should be, which is more work because you got to pull out the data and clean it and kind of get stuff ready. But we have helped customers locally in that capacity.
Well, there's tricks, and you may have a more technical term for that, but there's shortcuts, there's tricks, there's things that you learn along the way
Yep.
that are not intuitive.
Yep.
And that, you have to know that they're there so you can
Yeah.
use them. I would imagine that most people who use Outlook only use less than half of its capabilities. And there's probably some neat things you can do with Outlook that I'm not even aware of.
Right.
I would assume that's true for
That's
Salesforce.
absolutely true. That is 100% true. And that's actually why the customers come to us, is they're like, I want to leverage this cool new thing and that cool new thing, but I set up my CRM or my Salesforce wrong. So can you help me get it kind of like re-baseline so I can start taking advantage of all these other capabilities? But to your point, when you look at the full spectrum of what Salesforce has to offer, a lot of customers are only using just a small subset.
Right.
Yeah.
And is that something that you are, would your firm be interested in getting in and looking at something like that for some companies?
Definitely.
Okay,
Call
'cause
us up.
that's-
Let me know.
Well, no, and I'm sorry, what was that number?
Well, you can go to our website. It's pacificpointcorp.com, and on there's a lot of ways to contact us.
Very good. So the website was just on the screen there, and
Perfect.
And you go to that website, and there's ways of getting in touch with you,
Lots of
including
ways.
phone numbers and email.
Phone number, email, social.
Very good. Well, I guess and I've got a role at the Chamber of Commerce, and we do things. It's mostly in the small business market, but we do have some large chamber members there. And maybe we should talk at some point on having some sort of a workshop or an orientation on Salesforce, because I know there's a lot of users out
There
there. Junior Achievement that I'm the chair of this year used Salesforce for many years. They just switched to something that JA brought in-house.
Right.
That's not Salesforce, but there's a lot of companies and there's a lot of nonprofits out there that use Salesforce. Is there a big difference between a way a commercial enterprise would use Salesforce and a nonprofit? I mean,
Not a whole lot. There's some minor differences because I've also worked with a nonprofit. But yeah, I mean, when you look at a development, nonprofit is sales in the
they're
commercial sector.
selling
so
a
it's the
product
same.
and hopefully
Yeah.
getting some donations for it.
Right,
so.
exactly. It's the same
Yeah.
basic concept. Some minor differences, but it's essentially the same. And Salesforce, I think it's 501c status,
yeah.
then you get it complimentary. So it's a great, I mean, you got to go set it up now, but
So then
Yeah, it's a
wait
great
a
thing to
minute,
think
this
about.
might be another opportunity. So Salesforce actually offers their product to 501c3s and nonprofit organizations
Mm-hmm.
on a complimentary basis?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 501c3. Yep.
Okay, well, we can confirm that, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably why Junior Achievement was using it for
Mhm.
so many years.
Yep.
And if there was a nonprofit, and I'm sure that there are a lot of nonprofits out there, if they did have some interest in getting Salesforce, would you be able to help with that process and
Sure.
and get it on this complimentary? There might be a cost to help setting it up and getting it
Right.
implemented and that
Right.
sort of thing, but the software itself would
Yep.
be complimentary. That's an excellent opportunity.
Yep.
But they have to say that they heard about it from Business in Hawaii, right? And to get that.
That's how you get the discount, a little code at the end. I'm just kidding.
All right, well, very good. Well, but we should loop back at some time and see if there's an opportunity for you to come in and do a little workshop or
Sure.
presentation on Salesforce. And since I'm the chair of that committee and I put those training courses on, I'm sure we can get that to
Talking to
happen.
the right guy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, very good. Well, where are you planning on going with your company?
Well, I think we're going to keep doing what we're doing. Growing is, working hard to grow the business. I think we're also, we're investing a lot in kind of our give back to the community. We started a webinar series, we started blogs. We want to add value to the companies that are here in Hawaii by contributing the knowledge and expertise that we have on our team. We have some great consultants on our team. And so, we've kind of set up the framework for more of that. So definitely, look at the website, follow us on social, look at those things because we're really trying to give back to the community value. Whether or not you use our services, we really just want to add value to the businesses here.
Right. Are those webinars available on via your website?
Correct. Yep.
Very good. And give me an example of what some of these webinars are.
So we just started the program. So we did one on what is CRM. We actually get that question sometimes where people are like, so I think I know what it is, but can you just tell me further? So we put a nice little kind of intro webinar. We gave some good use cases. So there's some great examples in the webinar. It's recorded, it's on YouTube and everything.
And how
like
long
that.
is the webinar?
Webinar is about 45 to 50 minutes.
Okay.
We did a Tableau webinar where it was just more of a Tableau kind of power up, just get situated on the product, and then we can also help with polishing and things like that. But we just did it more of a power up. But we've got a lineup, I should say, of a list of things that we're planning for the year, which I think will be some useful, hopefully valuable things to businesses here in Hawaii
Very good.
and elsewhere, whoever wants to look at it.
Well, hopefully one of these days you could put a Salesforce webinar on there.
Yeah.
Just an introductory thing,
Yep.
to explain what it is and how it works and what the possible options are that they could
Yep,
utilize.
good idea.
Very good. Now, I know that we had a Freudian slip a little earlier, and you mentioned Japan. Is that something that's on the horizon?
Yeah, we're looking at Asia. We're trying to evaluate as a potential market for us. We feel like we have, Hawaii is so special and so unique where we're located that sometimes it's a problem, but at the same time, I think it's also an advantage. And so when I see problems, I like to figure out how can I make that an advantage. And so we're looking at Asia, and we'll see what happens.
Very
so
good.
maybe that was prophetic.
So, can you speak Japanese?
Not very well.
Skoshi dekimasu?
Skoshi.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Very good. Well, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience before we adjourn for today?
I don't, nothing in particular. I think just, I believe in Hawaii and I believe investing here is smart. And I think everyone, that watches the show that's in Hawaii should continue to think about that.
Well, and you're another example of the non-typical way to going into a small business and being successful. I mean, you came from a large firm, you worked for the state, you worked for the airlines, and now you have a small business. So, there's a lot of avenues that people can take in order to have their own small business. And I think you hit it on the nail on the head earlier when you said attitude is the critical component.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yep.
very good. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
I wish you well, and I can assure you we'll be in touch
Sounds
and see
good.
what we can do to to bring Salesforce to the masses.
All right, sounds like a plan.
This is Reg Baker. You've been watching Business in Hawaii. We broadcast live every Thursday at 2 o'clock. We have guests from across the state to come in and talk about their successes. And our message is that it is possible to have a successful business in Hawaii. We'll see you next week. Thank you and aloha.